The police involved in the Bricks and Minifigs case had obviously one thing in mind when pulling over Reckless Ben, and that was, how can we get him in jail? That was their objective. What you're about to see is some body cam footage from the police pullover that we haven't seen before that really makes the police department look bad. As we dive in, I'm having my morning coffee. Let me know what you guys are drinking as you're watching this, and thank you guys so much for subscribing. Now, let's dive in.
That's another charge, obviously. I mean, we'll stack him until he leaves you guys alone, I guess. You know what I mean? Or they put him in jail, one or the other.
All right, you could hear it right there. It seems he's just going to keep on stacking the charges until he could put him inside of jail. The police officer legit said that, knowing he was getting recorded, because that footage is from the police officer's footage from his own gear that was recording his statement to Reckless Ben during that pullover. All right, let's get into the breakdown because we have the lawyer on this one.
The body cam picks up with Ammon on the phone to police, and his opening question is essentially, hey, why is Ben not in jail? There is a correct answer to that question. It's 9 words long. It's, a judge released them. That decision is not ours. That's it. A release order is not a customer complaint. It's not a coupon you can ask a manager to override. If the state believed that Ben should have stayed in custody, the state had a forum for that argument, a courtroom. And the state made that argument, and the state lost. That's not a malfunction. That's the way the system is designed. So watch what the officers do with that 9-word answer.
By the way, this guy that we're watching right now, he's a lawyer. He was a lawyer for 25 years and has a good perspective on this type of stuff. So I like listening in because I am not a lawyer. I'm just an average Joe, and I like to get a lawyer's perspective. By the way, the entire video here is linked down below if you want to watch that.
They don't give it. Instead, the conversation opens up.
That would be a complaint that would have to be directed towards their office to find out what's the deal? Why would you let this guy out when he's stalking us, right? That's
Yeah. So really quick. Sorry, let me grab a pen. Who do I contact for that?
I suggest you put all evidence that you have against this guy on that.
This does not sound like officers taking a complaint from a witness. It sounds like a vendor meeting. Ammon has a desired outcome. The officers are helping him route around the obstacle. And the obstacle in this scenario is like a judge or justice or really the entire American legal system. Ammon didn't call the police that morning. He called customer service. And customer service picked up. And then the tape stops being about anything Ben allegedly did and becomes a conversation about who Ben supposedly is. And the allegations come in waves.
He was arrested in California for doing this kind of trespassing and kind of stuff. Even though he's an out-of-state, flight risk, he's also been passing fraudulent gift certificates to financially harmed. He lies through his teeth. If I need to go and get some of my staff armed so that he can't threaten them.
They started threatening to kill some of the staff. Honest to goodness, he's a sociopath.
That's a lot of very serious claims.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking too. I don't know if all of the things that they're claiming right there are actually true. Was Reckless Ben giving out gift cards that were fraudulent? Was he threatening to kill people? I don't believe that he was. Were there previous charges? Possibly. Reckless Ben was definitely someone that would kind of get in the face of others to get some type of a reaction for his videos. We know that for sure.
Very quickly by a person with an obvious and enormous interest in the outcome. So here's the thing that I was listening for, not skepticism, not hostility, just one question. 4 words like, how do you know? I didn't hear it, not once. No, let's pull his record and verify that. No, who witnessed the threat? No, when did he say that and to whom? And do you have it in writing? Nothing. And nobody notices that the pile of accusations doesn't even agree with itself. Ammon describes a calculating sociopath who lies about everything and manipulates people, and also a man so unhinged, he's about to murder somebody in a retail store this week.
That's
Those
crazy.
are 2 different guys. They can't both be Ben. You don't need a law degree to catch that. You need to just be listening. And this is the point in the tape where an investigation would have started. But instead, we get a recap. I kind of want to be fair to the officers here, so let me give them their best defense because they have one, and maybe it deserves to be said out loud, but not really. Police are allowed to listen to complainants. Listening is part of their job. An officer who interrogates every victim who walks in the door is a bad officer. Taking a statement is not misconduct, and nobody should pretend otherwise. I'm not pretending. Here's why that defense dies on this tape. Because collecting a statement and adopting a statement are two entirely different acts. An investigator collects a claim and then goes and tests it. Corroboration, records, timeline, witnesses. That's not an optional courtesy. That's the entire function. Probable cause is supposed to be built out of facts an officer has some reasonable basis to credit, not out of the volume and confidence of the person doing the complaining.
Yeah, basically what's being heard right here is the officers are just being told things and there's no questioning or there's no deepening into that information. It's literally just taking the word of everything that they're hearing about how bad Reckless Ben is and how dangerous Reckless Ben is, and which isn't true, and then going forward with that as if it's all fact without trying to learn anything more.
And on this tape, every accusation gets added to the pile and none of them get tested. By the end of the conversation, Ben is no longer a guy who was arrested yesterday and released by a judge. He's been upgraded with no evidence introduced at any point into a serial criminal, a public danger, and a man who cannot be reasoned with, a redhead.
That's it! I have had enough!
And then, in the middle of all of that, an officer says it out loud.
We'll stack him until he leaves you guys alone, I guess. You know what I mean? Or they put him in jail, one or the other.
And I want to be very careful and very clear about why that sentence matters, because
We'll stack them, he said. He'll just continuously drop charges on Reckless Ben until he leaves them alone.
it's not just ugly, although it is really ugly. It's legally significant. That sentence contains no facts. It contains no offense, no element, no date, no conduct, no victim. There's nothing in it about what Ben did. It's entirely about what the officers intend to accomplish, and it names two acceptable outcomes. Ben leaves or Ben is incarcerated. I mean, that sounds like the Wild West. And yes, officers can absolutely charge multiple offenses when multiple offenses have been committed. Trespass Monday and stalking Tuesday, well, they're two crimes and nobody's asking law enforcement to ignore the second one. So let me give these dirty cops the innocent reading in its strongest form.
He said it right there. He said these dirty cops. So this 25-year experienced lawyer believes that the police officers that were on this case are dirty, which means that he probably believes that the court system that was involved in this case is also dirty. But I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Maybe he meant, if this guy keeps breaking the law, we'll keep enforcing it. Clumsy phrasing, benign intent, casual conversation, bad luck that the camera was on. Now watch that reading fall apart because it cannot survive its own context. The innocent version requires the charges to be the consequence of Ben's future conduct. But on this tape, the charges are the instrument and Ben's departure is the goal. Until he leaves you guys alone is not a description of law enforcement. It's a description of Ammon's desired result. And the stacking is how you get there. He did not say we'll charge him if he commits crimes. He said we'll stack him until he's gone. And that distinction is the ballgame, because charging a person to make him go away rather than because the evidence supports the charge is the definition of pretext. It is the thing that every retaliatory arrest and abuse of process doctrine in this country exists to catch. Which brings me to the part of this tape which should make this department very, very uncomfortable. Under Nieves versus Bartlett, if you want to sue over a retaliatory arrest, the existence of probable cause will usually sink your claim before you reach a jury, no matter how obvious the officer's motive was. And that rule exists precisely because motive is nearly impossible to prove, and the cops know this. And that's why we had probable cause is the end of most of these conversations. And these officers went ahead and put the motive on tape anyway. I mean, chef's kiss for the stupidity. And then Ammon asked a different kind of question.
This guy.
Again, like, do I, and I'm kind of asking a serious question. In your opinion, would you go get a shotgun and bring it in the store?
And the way he asks it is not the way somebody asks about firearms law. It's the way somebody asks for permission to shoot somebody. He's not looking for a statute. He's looking for, like, a blessing? And he gets one.
I personally encourage people who are able to carry legally to carry.
And look.
All right, so that right there, we spoke about that in a previous video. He was speaking to the police officer. And the police officer, in the best terms that he could say on camera, is that he encourages people that have the ability to carry. for protection. He was basically giving the blessing for Bricks and Minifigs to have a shotgun to protect themselves specifically from Reckless Ben, someone who was not a danger.
Standing alone, that sentence is fine. It is accurate. A lawful carrier can lawfully carry, and an officer who says so has not done anything wrong. If you had clipped that 10 seconds and posted it by itself, there would be no video here. But nothing on this tape stands alone, and the officers built the context for themselves. For the several minutes immediately preceding that exchange, these officers absorbed, without a single verifying question, a portrait of Ben as violent, unstable, homicidal. They never tested it. They never even sourced it. And then, sitting inside that unverified portrait, they encouraged the man who authored it to introduce firearms into his next encounter with Ben. Think about the position that puts Ben in. He was released by a judge. He's been convicted of nothing. And the police have now helped install the belief in the mind of the person most hostile to Ben that Ben is the kind of threat you meet with a shotgun. Look, that is not neutral. That's not investigating.
No.
Whatever anyone intended, the department stopped assessing whether Ben was dangerous and started helping build the case that he was dangerous, and then armed Bricks and Minifigs for it. And the allegations keep escalating past anything resembling relevance. At one point, Ammon moves off Ben's conduct entirely and starts speculating about Ben's childhood and about a family member's supposed criminal history, offering it up as an explanation for the kind of person that Ben must be. And I'm not going to repeat the specifics, and I'll tell you exactly why. Ben went and ran it down, and it turns out it was a different person entirely who happens to share a name. It was wrong.
Yeah, they were actually using another Ben that has the same name as Reckless Ben. They were taking the life events of this different person and using it against Reckless Ben, even though they probably knew it was a different Ben.
And I'm not interested in laundering a false accusation about somebody who has nothing to do with any of this just because it made it into a police body cam recording, which is precisely the point. That claim was checkable. Ben checked it. A civilian with a camera checked it, and it fell apart in about the time it takes to run a search. There were officers in that room with databases and a legal obligation to care about things that are true. But nobody hit the brakes, not once on the entire tape. So put the timeline together. A judge orders a man released. The complainant calls police to ask, why'd that happen? And instead of being told that the answer is no, he gets helped. He unloads a dozen serious allegations, and not one of them is tested. An officer describes the objective as stacking charges until the man leaves or goes to jail. The complainant asks about a shotgun, and he's encouraged. And a claim that took one civilian, one search to disprove, sits on the recording untouched.
I mean, this all tells me that it was very clear that the police officers were working hand in hand with Bricks and Minifigs, and most likely the law system as well, to try to ensure the safety and the victory of Bricks and Minifigs in this case entirely.
These officers did not stop being investigators because they were corrupt. They stopped because they were captured. Somewhere in the conversation, the department quit functioning as a neutral arm of the state, and they started functioning as Ammon's contractor, but with the same tools, same authority, same badge, pointed wherever the client, Ammon, pointed them. And that's actually worse than being a dirty cop, not better. Because a dirty cop is one person, and this was a room full of people who thought that this was like normal. The whole system runs on one premise, that police test a complainant's story just as hard as they test a suspect's. If you take that away, you don't have law enforcement anymore. You have muscle for hire with the records department.
So it's very clear that the lawyer here, America's attorney, really does believe that the police were essentially hired by Bricks and Minifigs to take their side, protect them throughout the entire case, and then probably the same thing went on with the law system as well. Really dirty stuff shared right here, and when you have everything recorded on a body cam, it's hard to refute. If you want to see the entire story of Bricks and Minifigs, I'll put the entire playlist right here. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you over in those videos.